Good morning, Randy Smith, Illinois River Project Director for the Nature Conservancy based at Emiquon. Just going to give a brief update on Emiquon and our Spunky Bottoms Preserves along the Illinois River and just some of the things that have gone on the last year and some of our plans for upcoming 2025. And everyone on our small crew here on the Illinois River Project team has contributed to this work. Either the presentation or the on-the-ground work. So just want to acknowledge our whole crew. If you're not familiar with the Illinois River Valley and our preserves along it, just a real quick introduction here. So Illinois River, the headwaters are in Chicagoland, flows east out of that area. It makes a big bend and heads southwest and then joins the Mississippi River just above St. Louis. Our Emiquon and Spunky Bottom Preserves are in the central part of the river valley. Emiquon's about halfway between the Peoria Lock and Dam and the LaGrange Lock and Dam, and Spunky is just below LaGrange. Emiquon is about a 6,700 acre drainage and levee district, so floodplain and upland. Spunky's about a 1,200 acre drainage and levee district, floodplain and upland. And these preserves were purchased Spunky in the late 90s, Emiquon in 2000, with restoration, wetland restoration from row crop agriculture having gone on for in the neighborhood of 20 years at each location. We'll talk about our Spunky Bottoms Preserve for a little bit first with some of the work that we've got going on there over the past couple of years. So just to orient you a bit with Spunky Bottoms here, the map on the left, the yellow line indicates the levee that surrounds the property. So for the drainage and levee district, then there's a couple of roadways that span it. That Township 500 North Road is the property line between the Illinois DNR owned portion and the TNC owned portion. So DNR owns north of that. The white arrows indicate portions of the levee that were being overtopped by flooding in 2013, which was a major flood along the Illinois River, and that orange circle with arrows represents where the levee actually failed during that flooding. The roads that are indicated in blue are roads that then were inundated once the floodwaters receded, and so we actually had to create a second intentional notch or cut in the levee to allow that water to drain back out. So the site has been fully connected to the river since 2013. The water comes in and out and raises and falls with the river. But we now have a construction project underway to repair that, both that original cut caused by the flooding as well as our intentional cut, which will have a water control structure constructed inside of it as well, so that we can have a managed connection to the Illinois River going forward. On the left here, we have some pictures of the original levee breach in 2013 and again in 2023. That outline of that levee can just kind of be made out in the background there with the yellow line, and then some updated pictures from construction ongoing in 2024, so late fall or late summer or early fall there in 2024. You can see some dirt being piled in that former breach, and then in 2025 here relatively recently when we had some snow on the ground, actually getting kind of hard to even see exactly where that breach is at. So we're moving along towards completion of that part of the project. So in the upper left, you can see where that intentional cut was created along the river. So really narrow spot between the Spunky Bottoms Preserve and the Illinois River there. At the bottom left, you can see what that looks like when the water's a little bit higher. So inundation from the river through that cut. You can see a barge in the background, and then this background photo you can see on the far right where that cut is during a little bit higher water level. More recently, a photo from one of the aerial waterfall surveys during fall. You can see construction getting going in that cut, starting to establish some infrastructure there. And then more recently, after some of that work got underway, the tall structure to the left is what's going to house the screw gate that opens and closes the tube through the levee. And then what we call the sampling structure off to the right, that's that big rebar structure with a big concrete base underneath of it. And then again, more recently, some some little bit bad news here recently. That sampling structure, the big rebar structure with the concrete base underneath of it, that concrete under that failed a strength test here recently and is going to have to be removed and repoured. We don't yet know what kind of delay that's going to cause. We have a tentative completion date of early fall 2025, and we're hoping that that's not impacted too greatly. We've shared these several times before, but these are just the designs for the water control structure. The Spunky Bottoms side is at the top, the Illinois River is at the bottom in this image. So this is going to be a 6-foot round culvert that extends through the levee with a large screw gate structure that allows us to open and close that tube, as well as a sampling structure on the Spunky Bottoms side. There'll also be a gravel roadway that leads from the levee top down to the level of the structure, that's designed to allow for a trailer to be pulled, a truck and trailer to be pulled down there and for loading and unloading equipment or doing whatever we need to do. The side view of that, Illinois River on the right, Spunky on the left. You can see that tube through the levee, where the screw gate sits, and then how that sampling structure is designed, and then armored areas with riprap at either end to prevent any sort of erosion or damage. So with completion of this water control structure and construction project, we're really excited to have the opportunity to manage this habitat again. And we're talking a lot about what that looks like for monitoring priorities and what sort of things are going to guide those management decisions in terms of connections to the river and habitat types that we're trying to focus on, and species groups that we're trying to focus on, and all those things. So we're developing a set of key ecological attributes, borrowing heavily from those at Emiquon again. And Maria is going to get into this a lot more with a talk a little bit later on this morning. All right, transitioning to Emiquon and a shot of some really nice habitat from this last year, and hopefully we'll have some things that look like this at Spunky in the near future as well. So starting with some of our vegetation management at Emiquon, we always have a lot of work to do on the site. That's Denham and Thomas and Mark and others that can help out when available. But, we always have a lot of pressure from invasive species, Phragmites, teasel, purple loosestrife, and honeysuckle being our big four here. This map shows those areas that were treated in 2024. Also some areas of trees, both to maintain the integrity of the river levee. You don't want too many trees growing on that, so had some work done along that river levee. You can see on the right of that image, and then also some trees treated in our public use area just to maintain that view shed from that area. It's hard to talk about wetlands or folks see a nice wetland setting if their view is blocked by trees. Also, starting to do a little bit of work on American lotus, just kind of a test patch out there to see, what kind of options we have for treatment in terms of herbicide and cost and effectiveness and things like that. Lotus is a native, but it's aggressive and it's been expanding pretty drastically over the past couple of years. Prescribed fire is an important part of our management as well. Prairie areas and upland areas really need that disturbance from fire in order to stay in high quality. And Denham Perry on our crew achieved burn boss status this past year, and so we're really excited about the ability to get more fire on the landscape, and that's a pretty big achievement in someone's fire career. So we're really happy about that. We had about 180 acres burned in 2024. The butt track near Dixon Mounds Museum, as well as the wet prairie along the highway. Those areas visible there. And then going forward into 2025, our top priorities are the public use area, and then the area at the south end of the preserve, just south of that wet prairie that was burned in 2024 are the top priorities. And then the next priority area after that is a small triangle prairie, kind of right at the base of the bluff, and then that also connects into that bluff line or Morton Ridge, as we often refer to it. This is the long-term hydrograph for inside Emiquon, so water levels in Emiquon. So just to kind of orient you, green is just the water level as measured at Emiquon. Yellow is anytime we are pumping water out. Blue is anytime we are flowing water out with gravity. and red is any time we are flowing water in. So not a lot of connection with the Illinois River, mostly pumping just due to water levels and efficiency and things. But really what we're looking at is just kind of the last 3 years here. So 22, 23, 24, and then going into 25. And we've seen that we have kind of been cyclic over that time, creeping up a little bit, but not a lot of major changes throughout these past couple of years. Looking a little more closely just at these last couple of years and how we haven't done any active water management and just kind of that cyclic pattern of water up and down a little bit. And that's just from spring rains leading to relatively dry conditions in the summer where we lose some water, and just kind of following that over the past couple of years. We're starting to come up just a little bit more, but then again we kind of got dry in the fall and lost some of that water. So this is kind of our current water level as of about February 2025. Pretty good portion of the preserve inundated, but we think we've got some room to go a little bit higher yet. If we add just a bit of water, we can add about another 1,000 acres of wetted area without getting to the point where we're concerned about infrastructure damage or anything. So looking at this a little more closely, this is back to that hydrograph again with that pink circle representing our current water level. Over the years, we've been significantly higher than we are now, so up over 434 feet of elevation. That's where we've got water on the toe of the levee, and we start to see some impacts to our infrastructure, either with wave action or burrowing animals like muskrats. So we don't want to do that. I think we want to stick kind of within this range as our upper range. So 433 and below, that gives us a really good wetted area, but not to the point where we could have infrastructure damage or anything like that. So again, this is where we are now, about 430 and a half feet of elevation, about 3,400 acres flooded, and we think we can go to about 4,400 acres flooded by adding another 1.5 to 2 feet of water, and that really kind of maximizes our flooded area and our habitat potential. These areas that have been dry for a number of years and get water back on them just look fantastic. So this is an example of that. This area had been dry for a number of years and was just a great example of submerged aquatic vegetation and hemi-marsh this past year. Really kind of exciting. Last year, we spent a lot of time talking about these issues, about our submerged aquatic vegetation and impacts that carp might be having on it, or other animals. We talked a lot about it at the Emiquon Science Symposium, and then we also got a group of experts together last May to take a look at some of the habitat that was out there, as well as spend a lot of time talking through some of these issues and things that might be impacting the site. So we got some great guidance coming out of those meetings in terms of next steps. So some of the big things, getting a better handle on our carp population through some mark recapture work. That's primarily common carp. We think they're the ones that are having the most impact on submerged aquatics. And then also some more aggressive removals we think will help quite a bit. So those removals can come in a couple of different ways. One, we are still working with commercial fishermen in the area to remove fish from Emiquon. We have a new commercial fisherman that started in 2025. He is a little more aggressive than the folks that we've had in the past, and has been removing a lot of fish a lot more frequently, which we think is a good thing. A lot of these are the Asian carps, silver and big-headed carps, but he also definitely targets common carp at certain times, and he's been great with working with us to so that we can tag a larger sample of fish. So taking some of the fish that he's caught, tagging them and releasing them, and then also scanning common carp that he catches to see if any of them are tagged for that mark recapture effort. We also have been chatting with folks at Carp Solutions, which is a company in Minnesota that specializes on common carp removals. And we are going to test out a couple of these baited trap nets, hopefully this summer at Emiquon. We got a chance to visit a site last summer and see how they worked, and we think that could be a useful solution at Emiquon as well. Just looking at some of those commercial fishing removals, because can just kind of see how what's been done so far in 2025 kind of stacks up against some of these other recent years, both in terms of pounds and number of fish caught, already kind of getting into the upper range of what's been done in the past. So again, a lot of these are silver carp, but also a pretty large number of common carp and also big mouth buffalo. Um, you know, we think this is going to have just a much better impact on these habitats long term, getting a lot of these fish out of the system, and again, trying to keep track of mark recapture models and things like that to get a better handle on our population while we're doing this. Transitioning a little bit to some of the other things that we've got going on, some of the people things we have going on. We hosted a all staff retreat in October. So that was all of our Illinois-based staff for TNC, or most of them anyway. We had just over 80 people for a couple days at the preserve to really help them dig in and understand what we're trying to do here, what resources we have available when they're talking with donors, or they're helping us out with contracts or any of those sorts of things, just to have a better understanding of our goals and what resources we have at the site. We also had some really cool visits with partners, some fishery researchers from China, and then a great group of folks from the University of Illinois system that spent some time at the preserve as well. We also have some public events coming up this year. This 2025 is actually the 25-year anniversary of Emiquon from the purchase in 2000. So a few things going on to celebrate that. We do have a big donor and trustee event in May that a handful of folks are invited to, as well as 9 different types of public activities that kicked off with Eagle Day in February, but it'll include things like ridge hikes and birding, and volunteer days and paddling events, and learning about our science and things. And we're still finalizing dates for a lot of those things, but they will be released soon. I think we're going to have a web page built around that. And we'll also have some collectible stickers associated with each of those events. And if folks participate and collect enough of them, they'll be invited to probably a Partners and Friends cookout sometime in the fall, and entered in a drawing for something fun on the preserve, like an airboat ride or something like that. But we're looking forward to this, and happy to celebrate this 25 years of Emiquon. Thanks for joining us today. We have a lot of other great information that'll be presented here in the next few talks over the next couple of hours. We hope folks hang in there. Just a lot of great stuff going on here on the preserve and elsewhere to learn about. And hopefully we've got time for a couple of questions.